Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie, Esther here. And so, anything going on today? Anything I should know about? Anything in the news? Anything interesting happened today? Of course something interesting happened today. If you don't know, Dead by Daylight put out this teaser trailer for DLC Chapter 13. I'll present it to you. There you go. How hot is that? While I would love to have shared my raw first reaction with all of you, I was watching this video this morning, shortly after I woke up, with my family on the television, and I will say there was a lot of screaming, hooting, and hollering, mostly by me, and then people just started blowing up my phone. Like all day, people blowing up my phone saying, "You were right, Paul, you were right. Oh my gosh, can't believe it." And like, it's just so heartwarming to get all of those messages from all of you tagging me saying, "Have you seen this?" and "Oh my gosh," and "Can't believe it." And it's just very exciting. And while I will say that it is nice to be right, I'm also quite relieved. This has been a journey since the middle of June, waiting to see if I was indeed on the right track with all of this. And it's very nice to get all of the praises and kind words from all of you in the community. I promise you I'm feeling all of the love, but I just want you to know that I am not alone in this endeavor. This is not a one-man band operation here. There are a lot of people in the community who make sure that I am aware of things, and I get things passed to me all the time, and I look at something and I decide whether or not that means anything or if it doesn't mean something. So there's a lot of stuff that you guys have never seen because I've just put it aside and I said, "Oh, I don't think that's real," or "I don't think that that's on the right track," or something like that. And I try and sift through it and get you the best possible information, but I don't do it by myself. Like, I'm going back to the middle of June here while I'm driving back from Florida. I'm somewhere in Kentucky on my vacation with my family, and I decide to check my phone at the rest area in Kentucky, and I see somebody sends me a message, "Hey, did you see this tweet from Netflix? What do you think?" And then boom, you know, that's what kicked it all off. I'm driving the rest of the way home that day, trying to sift in my head what it could mean, and did it mean what I thought it meant? And what else could it be? And just try and eliminate possibilities and think of the big ideas, what it could possibly be. And it winds up being that the big idea was the real idea. But like I said, I'm not alone in this. I get a lot of people who are in constant communication with me, and too many to thank. And, you know, I never tell somebody, "Yeah, I've already seen that, thanks." I try not to, at least, just because if I discourage somebody who's sending me something that I've seen already, then they're going to be less likely to send me that next bit of information, and I might never get that information if they don't provide it to me. So I'm always very grateful to all of the people out there who give me the information to try and put one of these theories together. And I'm kind of like the news anchor behind the desk, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes who are making me look good. And today is a day where all those people definitely made me look good. Believe me, I'm not a person who's looking at Matthew Cote's Twitter follows and see who he's following. I'm the person who has somebody say to me last week, "Hey, did you know that Matthew Cote followed these two people last week? And do you think that means anything?" And then I'm the guy who goes, "Yeah, I think that means something." And then I bring that information to you, and it winds up being correct. So I just want to say thank you to everybody out there in the community, the people who have given me this support, that they think that I, you know, got 2 right in a row and I can do no wrong, which I assure you is not the case. and to all the people who have provided me with this information to make me look good. Now, having said that, I'm always transparent to share where I get my information from. So, you know, Matthew Cote's smart enough to watch the video and see that people are watching who he follows. So the next time there's a licensed chapter, he's probably going to be much more careful about his timing of following other people on Twitter who are connected to a license. So it's going to become more difficult here, I expect. So don't expect 3 in a row. I'll also note that I was the household champion, undefeated household champion of Clue in my home until today. My wife beat me at Clue. So the writing's on the wall. It's all down here, all downhill from here, everybody. Don't expect me to get the next chapter right. We're just gonna rest on our laurels and be happy with what we got here. And we'll see what happens after that. But all jokes aside, I'm super happy and relieved that the theory turned out to be right. And I'm not just relieved for me, like, hey, I can take it if there's egg on my face and I'm wrong. I can take it. I'm always, any video I put out, I might be crazy and harebrained, but I do genuinely believe it. It isn't clickbait. Whatever I put out there, I genuinely believe that information at the time. I'm not making a video for the sake of making a video. If I give you something, I believe it. I really want to be right. But at the same time, I don't want to be wrong because I don't want to build your expectations and put it in a certain direction. And then if it ends up being something else, I'm always fearful that there's going to be backlash and hate against the devs. Well, Paulie said it was going to be Stranger Things. What is this? And then have it be a letdown. So that's always a fear in the back of my mind when I go out on these limbs and do this stuff. And I guess you would say, well, why even do it in the first place then? Well, because, you know, I enjoy doing it. And I also feel like if I didn't do it, somebody else would do it too. So there is that. I had somebody say, well, you know, you're like the kid who wants to shake all the Christmas presents. Like you're taking away all the surprises. Which is true, but I suppose you don't have to watch the channel, or you don't have to seek out information about the next chapter if you don't want it. But I apologize to those people who feel like I'm wrecking their Christmas morning whenever there is a new chapter to drop. I don't know, am I rambling now? I kind of feel like I'm rambling. Anyway, I'm happy that the theory was correct. I'm happy about the contents of the chapter because I enjoy Stranger Things, and I'm overjoyed for the company as a whole because I believe this is a huge get. Like, I think the video is already number 2 on trending with 600,000 views for the trailer, and that's just the teaser. So let's see what happens where that trailer is going to end up. But I knew that this was going to be a huge property and a good get for the company. I think it's going to expand the player base tremendously. I know some people really just want to see originals and they don't want to see licenses, but the fact is that licenses bring new blood to the game and they are good, and this is a good one to have. So now let's dissect the trailer and see where we go from here. So as you can see, we're getting 2 survivors as predicted. It's Steve Harrington and Nancy Wheeler. As I mentioned in my last video, Matthew Cote started following those 2 actors, and there was some question today whether that meant that Joe Keery and Natalia Dyer might be doing some voice lines for those 2 characters. Dave Richard said he was not able to confirm that today when asked, that he could not make a statement one way or another about that. I think it may be likely. I'm not entirely certain. I don't think it's mandatory by any means, but it would be a cool touch if they flew in Natalia and Joe and got them to record some lines. I think that would be pretty cool, honestly. And then there's been some debate about the character selection. Look, there's a lot of great rich characters in the Stranger Things universe. By the way, we're going to talk about Stranger Things a lot here. If you aren't up to snuff on it, what have you been waiting for? Like, I've been making these videos telling you this is coming. How come you haven't been binging this show before now? But get caught up before the chapter comes out. It's a good show. I do believe you're going to enjoy it. It's like one of the top rated Netflix shows for a reason. So just get on it. Start binging it. 30 episodes, whatever it is, 3 seasons. You can do it. There's a lot of great characters in there, and some people were saying, well, you know, do the characters have to be deceased or alive? And we're not going to talk about who's deceased and who's alive and stuff like that. But there are a lot of other characters that you could have pulled out of the pool of Stranger Things. And these two are very good ones. There are some ones you could arguably make a case for that are better choices. But, you know, if everybody liked the same thing, we wouldn't have menus, right, in restaurants. So not everybody likes the same thing. But I don't think you can say these are poor choices for characters. They're in the same mold as the Laurie Strodes and the Quentin Smiths of the world of The Fog, and they're very good choices. Like I said, Steve is one that people have really been clamoring for. And then you have people like King who's saying that he's throwing Meg to the wayside and he's going to become a Nancy Wheeler main. Ardith, are you hearing that? King said he splits with Meg and she's all yours. All right. So, don't know if they're going to have voice lines. There was also some question as to whether or not these two characters were going to share a slot of for the survivor, if they would be 2 in 1 like a Legion, and you would just click on their box and you would pick either Steve or Nancy, and if they would share the perks. So Dave said today that they're separate characters on Twitter. I believe they're going to obviously have their own slots if that's the case, and probably have their own unique perks. I was thinking that maybe that they would share a slot and have shared perks, which I wasn't crazy about that idea, because I thought just to add to their own character, they should have some perks that were in the theme, the spirit of their personalities as characters on the show. So it sounds like they're probably going to have 6 perks to come here. So that's going to be a lot of work to grind up 18 levels of Blood Web on your existing characters that you have maxed out to get those 6 perks up to tier 3. Thankfully, they are going to ease the grind on the Blood Web by making the Blood Web easier when the next rework the Blood Web when the next chapter comes out. So I think you're probably going to be able to buy 2 perks at a time. We don't know exactly, but I think it's going to make the grind a whole lot easier, which is very welcome for me as somebody who has several characters who are maxed out. And you're looking at 18 Blood Webs per character at 50,000 roughly per Blood Web, and then times how many characters you have maxed out to get those perks, and not even counting grinding out Steve and Nancy themselves. So yeah, it's a lot. I'm glad that they're easing the Blood Web grind with this Blood Web rework, and they also said that we are going to have a double Blood Point event soon. Don't know when, but whenever that comes out, that's also going to make the grind a lot easier. Now, for the killer, we could see that that's the Demogorgon. That made the most sense as what character you would bring in. Some people had said, well, maybe it'll be a flayed person, which I thought would be rather boring. But with the Demogorgon, people said, well, it's got to be humanoid or have been human at one point in time for the entity to claim that being. So that's no longer the case. And the way that we see the Demogorgon move in the trailer, if they're going to be able to move like that in the game, just kind of opens up the possibilities for future monster-like characters. Perhaps the Xenomorph from Alien, which would be amazing. Who knows? But just seeing this Demogorgon, it looks like they probably had to build a new skeletal rig for this character. And generally, when they build a skeletal rig, they want to try and reuse those. So who knows? Maybe we might see somebody else use the Demogorgon skeleton in the future with a new skin on it. Anyway, the Demogorgon looks cool. Can I ask a question, though? How are we going to blind the Demogorgon? Does it have eyes exactly? I'm not entirely sure. Or do we just blind him in the flower petals? How does that work? I don't know. We'll have to see. So some people said, some people asked, well, what could the power be for the Demogorgon? Well, it is interdimensional teleportation, so that maybe could be a thing where it can move around the map from portal to portal, not sure. Or what about this idea? What if we have the Demogorgon so that he can hit survivors, which would put them into the upside down world, and then once the survivors are in the upside down world, they would work more slowly on healing and all action, sabotage, generators. That process would all be slowed while they were in the upside down. and they would either need to fail skill checks or other survivors would have to help pull them out of the upside down. And then while they're in the upside down, the Demogorgon will be able to see all their auras. And then, no, I'm just kidding. That's Freddy. We're not doing that. We're not going back to that, right? That's not going to happen. Okay, so what could the Demogorgon's power be? I'm not entirely sure. We do see the Demogorgon here on all fours. And usually some of the better killers in the game are the ones that can put map pressure and travel the map quickly. What if the Demogorgon can go down on all fours and sprint around the map to close distance between locations, and then just so that they aren't like running over survivors all the time, whenever they would stop this sprint, they would have to stand up on the two hind legs and perhaps let out a roar, which would give the survivor time to recover if the Demogorgon just swoops right up on them. That's my idea. It would be kind of like a hillbilly monster, if you will, somebody who can move across the map very quickly. Other than that, I don't know, but we won't have to wait long. I'm pretty sure the PTB is going to be next Tuesday. I expect even we will most likely have a dev stream this Thursday, and they may even just show us all of the chapters so that we know what to expect going into the PTB. Just tell us about the power and the perks and stuff. Also having 2 survivors, 6 perks, I was thinking, well, man, you know, perk design can't be easy, so for them to use 2 survivors on 1 chapter, I thought that was a lot for them to have 6 perks, and that was why it had given me pause and made me think it could be a possibility that they would share perks. But seeing that we didn't have a survivor corresponding with the Ghostface chapter, rest in peace, Cashier Carl, it makes more sense that they're able to deliver us 2 survivors with 3 unique perks each, because we did skip that survivor to go with Ghostface. Another thing people have asked me is, what do I think the price point of this will be, since there is additional content? I would say that all options are on the table. It could be the same price as a regular DLC, or it could be more expensive because there is additional content, considering that there is a Netflix license in it, and perhaps even 2 actors to pay for voice lines. It may be premium. So I would just say prepare yourself for that, or it might just be standard price, which you would gladly pay, right? And one last thing to touch on the Demogorgon's potential power. Somebody sent me this image of 2 status effects that they believe are coming into the game. If we zoom in close to this, it says they are undetectable and oblivious. For undetectable, the killer enters a stealth-like mode which suppresses their red stain and terror radius and blocks all survivor aura reading abilities. And oblivious, the survivor is oblivious to the imminent danger of a nearby killer. They do not hear the killer's terror radius, and they are not considered as being within the terror radius for power or perk effects. Now, these could be related to whatever the Demogorgon's power is. Personally, I feel like this is probably a quality of life thing for existing killers. Since killers cannot hear their own terror radius, they are sometimes uncertain as to whether or not they are emitting one. For example, I know Tinkerer has the little thing in the corner that shows you when it's running out, and they're supposed to know that they don't have a terror radius, but if they had this oblivious status effect, that would be useful. Also, when the Wraith comes out of his cloak, he's maybe not exactly sure when his terror radius kicks in, if he's trying to suppress his terror radius to not allow borrowed time. I think this is probably a quality of life thing. Obviously, the oblivious is going to be for the killer. You can't show the survivor when they're oblivious, otherwise they're going to know they're oblivious and there's something going on, right? And also for undetectable, this could perhaps be something that they're going to buff characters such as the pig when they go into crouch, or a common complaint with Ghostface was that he could be seen with Object of Obsession. So maybe this is going to be like the undetectable buff for characters like that who can go into the stealth and nobody can see them with aura reading, and that would appear on your screen to allow you to know that you are undetectable. It may play into the Demogorgon's power perhaps as well, but I think it's probably a quality of life thing more than anything. So I ran across this article today that shared some images of what perhaps the 2 survivors and the killer are going to look like in the rosters of survivors and killers. So we have this image of Steve Harrington, wearing his Steve Scuff rolled sleeves and Nancy in her torn sweatshirt. It says these are exclusive items when the chapter launches in September. So perhaps you're going to get variations. Like if you buy the whole chapter, you get an exclusive item. Not entirely sure. And then this is the image of the Demogorgon here. And the map is the underground complex located below the Hawkins National Laboratory. This grim compound caused an interdimensional rift that released dozens of creatures before being sealed off. So the lab is in season 1 and 2, and you could see in the trailer that the Upside Down is kind of spilling out into the hallways of this place. So that I think that the Upside Down isn't going to be like a status effect in the game, but I'm not entirely sure. But I am looking forward to an indoor map. Looks like this is an indoor map. Is it going to be 100% indoor? I don't know. I sure hope so. I quite enjoy the indoor maps. I think it's going to be a welcome addition to the map roster. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I ran across some artwork here by Javier Quintana Rojo, who as a fan just made some Stranger Things Hawkins Lab fan art 2 years ago of the laboratory where the portal appears. So this is pretty cool here if you look at these images. Something that, again, this isn't content in the game, but it's give you an idea of what it could look like. Those are some pretty cool images by Javier. Well, that's all I have for you today. Should we end this off with my little intro that I made for Dead by Daylight crossover with Stranger Things? We'll just retire that for the last time. We'll just end it with that. I did have a lot of fun making that thing, and you know, I think I'll put it in one more time. Hit the road if you don't want to see it. I'm gonna play this Stranger Things intro in Dead by Daylight style here, and then that's all I have for you today. But obviously there's a lot more stuff coming. This is just the first of the teasers. We're going to get more information this week. PTB probably next week. Chapter release probably September the 10th. And if any of that changes, I'll be letting you know. Thanks as always for all your support to the viewers and the people who provide me with information. Love you all. Have a great day. Take care of each other out there in the fog. Bye-bye.